Muted.
Hello everyone, this is Dave Berth with Site Improve here for you today. We're going to be talking about Key Metrics, our new tool that we released last month. Just going to give it another couple minutes to make sure everybody is able to come on and get going here. So we'll just give it another minute or two and then we'll go ahead and get started. Everybody else is on mute. Hopefully you can hear me, but you won't be able to do any talking on this call. There is chat functionality available through the webinar, and so definitely feel free to put any questions through there. I'm only going to take questions at the end of the call, but obviously you can fill out the questions and send them over at any time, and then we'll go through them all once I finish with the presentation. So again, you will be on mute, but feel free to use the chat functionality to ask any questions. All right, everyone, we'll go ahead and get started now since we are a couple minutes in here and hopefully everybody that's going to join us has. I am recording this session, so as we go through it, again, just keep that in mind, and I will make this available for everybody. We'll send it over to you once we have the recording ready for you, so you can obviously rewatch it or you can pass it along to any colleagues that need to watch it, anything like that. But we'll go ahead and jump right in here. So again, today we're talking about Site Improve's new tools around KPIs and key metrics. And so KPIs and key metrics are all about tracking your progress and seeing how things are going on the website and tracking what you want to get done with your website. And right now we're looking at is a college in the US who has given us permission to use their data. So that's what I'm going to use for our demo here today. Obviously, if you're with us already and you have analytics, we can set up a separate call to look at yours together if you'd like. But again, that's what we'll be looking at today is this college in the US. But before we jump into any specific things here, I want to talk about key metrics and KPIs in general, just to kind of get the concepts down before we get too far into it. And so where I'm actually going to show you here is if we go to key metrics training, which is right down here. Again, if you have the analytics tool, you'll obviously have access to this. If not, this is what our analytics tool looks like. But so for key metrics, we have its own training section right within the tool here with a couple of basic videos that do explain basically what we're going to be talking about here today, talking about key metrics and KPIs and getting started with key metrics and KPIs. And then the final two are about actually setting them up within the tools, which again is all stuff we're going to cover here today. And then below that, we do also have some options here as far as documents to give you some examples of key metrics and KPIs, and that is something I want to make sure to look at here with you to give us some visual representation of what other people have done and what we recommend things doing. So this one here is for examples for higher education. So I think we've got some folks from higher education on the call today, which is great. And so what we're looking at here is basically the KPIs are going across the top there. So that's what we're looking at with student recruitment, sharing of research, and alumni support. Again, these are just some examples of KPIs. You know, when you're thinking about your own KPIs, really the whole idea is to just think about what is the purpose of your website. You know, so these are very broad terms on what you're doing with the website. What are the goals that you want to achieve? You know, so again, in this case, you want to recruit students for the higher education example. You want to support your alumni, and you also want to share research. But there's probably, again, several other things that you can do. If we wanted to use site improve as an example, obviously one of our KPIs is to generate more sales leads. So when you're looking at site improve site, requesting a demo is definitely something we would be tracking with our KPIs and key metrics. So then once you've thought about a lot of those different things about what it is that you want to do with your site, again, is it recruitment? Is it getting new customers in? Is it supporting current customers or students, whatever it might be? And then, where do you go from there? How can you then track that? So again, the KPIs are the higher level overall. What are the broad and general goals that you have for your site? What do you want people to be doing and accomplish on your site? And then the key metrics are the next level in where you're actually tracking to see, if you did meet those KPIs. So how are we going to achieve student recruitment? Again, in this example that we're looking at here, we're going to look to increase tour of campus views. We're going to look to look at our page views of academic programs, and also looking at booking meetings with counselors and booking tours of the campus. So again, those are all lower level things that you can more directly check against and track your progress. And then you would use those as a roll-up to determine whether or not you met your KPI of student recruitment. If we wanted to check out our other one, which I think we have some government folks on the call with us here today as well. And so this is just another one looking at city level stuff. So again, some common KPIs for what is a city going to be doing with their site? What are they going to want to accomplish with their site? Well, there's probably going to be some self-service on there, so that you don't have to call the local council every time you need something or even go into the offices. You want to get people that information right out there, whether it's, as we're seeing here, building codes and permits, downloading the code itself for online applications, all that kind of stuff. Renewal of parking license, we can see, is another one that we've got attached to self-service here. But also cultural activities and regulatory information are some other ones. And as we can see here, your key metrics don't have to be only applying to one. As we can see, the three that we have referring to building codes and permits are both for self-service and regulatory information, so they can definitely cross over, if it makes sense that they would both roll up into those. So definitely, don't think they are exclusive to each other. And then again, cultural activities, that's a good one, like looking at park activities, if you have certain things going on at the park with your calendar, and other things like that, sharing all events on social media. Again, these are the lower level things that can help increase overall your cultural activities and make sure people are aware and participating in them. So hopefully this gives you some examples. Again, if you've already got our analytics tool, you already have access to this information. If you are subscribed to our tools but not analytics, you can also find this information out in the Help Center. So definitely take a look out there if you want to look up more information about our key metrics. And obviously we'll continue to talk here and look through some options. So now I'm just going to move right back into the tool here so we can actually take a look at how we would set these up, or some of the ones that Union College here, which again is in the US, has set up for us to look at more live examples. But hopefully, if you weren't familiar with KPIs and key metrics, that brief explanation there was enough to at least get some ideas in your head, again, about what sort of KPIs and key metrics might you have set up for your site, or might you want to set up for your site if you don't already have them. So we're going to start with key metrics then. So again, these are the lower level ones. So these are the ones that are really driving whether or not you're actually succeeding at your KPIs. And so again, we're looking at education here. And so there's a lot of different things we can do. And they've got 8 different ones set up right now as far as key metrics. And we can see we've got admissions. So that's one that they're talking about where they're just looking at the application clicks, how many people are applying online to do it. Is there a campus visit interest, which is also related to admissions, but looking at it from another perspective of people coming on board there. And of course, requesting information on just looking at the page views there. And additionally, we also have just, engaged social media traffic, engaged traffic. So again, using more general terms of not directly for admissions and trying to look at things like that, but just looking at some other ones here. Newsletter signups is another very common one. That's also one that we would use at Site Improve. We want all of our customers to be signed up to the newsletter and prospects as well, so that you can keep informed about everything that's happening. So that's definitely something that we would have as a key metric. Again, rolling up into a KPI that has to do with user engagement, something along those lines. So now how you actually set these up is very straightforward, and it really just depends on the situation that you're looking at. But we'll start, of course, by going into Create Key Metric. And so then from here, what you can do is that you have a selection of triggers here that this is how we're going to track your metrics. This is what you're going to be using to actually see and then set goals against to see if you're actually meeting what you need to meet. And so what we can see here is there's a few different ones, 7 in this case, because we do have some events being tracked for Union College as well. We may not for you, or especially not, again, if you're not already on our analytics tool. But we can do it based on a page that they visited. That's a very common one. Entry page, exit page as well. But if we want to use page visited as a first example here, I'm going to go back to using Site Improve as our example and talking about our newsletter. So again, we want people to sign up for our newsletter. So if I came in here and I wanted to sign up for this newsletter and I want to track, what people are doing here, I can then come in here and if I go into sign up, you can see that I'm taken to this page that's telling me, well, thank you for signing up for the newsletter. And so this is a specific page that I'm visiting, which I can see right up here. So I can actually just grab this up here, this URL. So this is my page visited. And I now know that anybody that visited this page is somebody that signed up for my newsletter. So again, it's very easy. I would just say URL contains, or I can also do URL starts with, ends with, or is exactly if I needed to be more specific, but in this case, this would work. I would add that in, and if that's all I needed to do, that was my entire one here is newsletter signups. I would, of course, just add the name, newsletter signups, and then I can go in to set my triggers, my targets to look at that. But before I do, I just want to go back one page because not everybody has a thanks for signing page or a sort of confirmation page that you would be able to use here. So the other thing that we can, of course, do is actually set up an event on the button itself. So whether it's an apply now button or a request demo button, or in this case, a sign up for a newsletter button, that's the other way we can track it is with an event tracking. So in this example, there are a couple of different ways. The page visit is nice and easy because you don't have to set up event tracking, and we may not have it set up for you yet if you need to do it. But that is certainly something that we do for you is setting up that event tracking. So again, just reach out to me if you do have some events that need to get set up, and especially if they tie into key metrics, we can talk about getting those set up once we're pulling that information. So again, just a quick example there for you of 2 different ways we can track the same thing there for you. And then again, you would give it a name to look at this down here. You can also give it a value, so a completion value. So if I keep using Site Improve as my example, but I maybe go into back to requesting a demo. So if we look at our numbers at Site Improve and we figure out that for every 10 demos that we receive a request for, it equates to $10,000 in new customer contract value. That's, of course, not our numbers. I'm just making that up. But then you would be able to, again, know from that, how much each one is worth. So if every 10 I get $10,000, obviously that's a very easy number to work with. So then I would know that every time I'm going into there, it would be $1,000 per completion because that's what it typically equates to. Now that's a very easy one to use since it obviously has monetary value, requesting a demo, with people eventually converting into becoming a customer. But there's other reasons as well, like signing up for a newsletter. We don't have a more direct one for that. You could certainly extrapolate something to try to work with there. But it doesn't also have to be just new income or new revenue. It can also be saved revenue. So as we looked at some local council examples for key metrics as well, that's those self-service options. Those are obviously in place to make things as efficient as possible for your constituents. But it's also there to make sure that you don't have to have staff around for everybody that has a simple question. So it's also in money saved there in support hours or staff hours. So again, there's lots of different things here that you can do, but you certainly don't have to add a monetary value if you don't want to, but that is what it's there for so that you can track that. And then below that is where you determine, okay, we know what we're tracking, but what is the target that we're looking for? And is it a fixed target or is it a variable target? And so a fixed target is very straightforward. That's just I want 10 signups or maybe I want 100 signups every month, regardless of which month it is. That's what I'm looking for. Very easy. You just insert your value there and you're good to go. If you have a variable target, that is if you want to set different targets by month. And so this would be especially useful, if you're a B2C, maybe dealing with seasonal shopping, especially with Christmas and the holidays and stuff coming up, maybe you expect your numbers in December to be higher than your numbers in January. This is where you would be able to then come in and set that exactly as you wanted. So again, I could say, well, in Jan, I only expect 50, but in December, I expect 100 because that's our busy season. And then, of course, all the ones in between that you want to do to make sure that you're not forcing yourself to try to use the same target when it doesn't make sense if you have seasonal fluctuations in what you're doing. I'll go ahead and just stick with a fixed target though. That's easy enough for there. And again, from that, I would then go and just add the key metric. And so it's going to go in there and it's going to start calculating. Now, of course, I'm not going to get any results here because I'm looking at Union College's analytics. I'm not looking at Site Improved's analytics, so it's not going to find anything for me. If you are setting these up on your site, it does take a few minutes to calculate, but usually not too much longer than that. So if you have set something up and it isn't showing, a couple hours later or even a day later, definitely just send us a note so we can take a look and figure out what's going on. But in general, it should show up there very quickly. So that was just one example. I'm going to go ahead and delete that right back out because obviously that's not useful to our friends over at Union College. But we can go in and just look at a couple of other examples here if we look at our triggers once more. So that was our page visited, which again is very commonly going to be a confirmation page that they achieved something that you wanted on the site. Again, it can also be entry page if maybe you're looking to increase traffic jumping right into your admissions page or your contact us page, whatever it might be. You want people to come in directly to that page, or exit page if you want people to leave. Or even an outbound link is another great example of a key metric. Maybe you are sending people out to an event sign up that's hosted on a different site, so it's not on your own site, so you can actually track what's happening off site within Site Improve at least. And so that's another way that you could do it, is that you want to send people, a certain number of people, 100 people out to look at the festival that you have coming up, or to look at, again, the open day sign up that you might have coming up, anything like that, or even just sending somebody out to your Facebook page. So maybe that's what you're doing, is you've got more information on your events on Facebook, and that's where you want people to go so that they can interact there. That's another commonly used outbound link one. Traffic sources is, of course, exactly that, related to traffic sources. And so that's if you're looking at it there and you wanted to increase maybe your social media traffic. It's as easy as that. You would just select the trigger here and then confirm which one are you looking for. Are you looking to increase the search engines? Maybe you're improving your SEO, or external referrals, or social media in general. And then again, it would just be a matter of setting up the appropriate targets. Well, what are you trying to achieve with social media or search engines? What sort of visits are we talking about? Are you looking to get 500 visits a month, 1,000, 50,000, whatever it might be? Again, it's obviously all customizable to meet exactly what you need there. Going back another step here, we'll just look at the last two that we had here for our triggers. And so that's engagement. And so that's also a nice one, is if you want to see, are the people that are visiting your site engaged at the level that you want them to be in? And so the way that we track this is with page views. And so we would consider somebody an engaged visitor, if they, for example, visited 5 pages. You don't want people coming in and just looking at one page and bolting. You want them to maneuver through the site, look at a few different things, especially if, again, you're a B2C that has a website that people are, an e-commerce website that people are looking through your products. You probably want them to look through several things. And you can choose, of course, what number of page views it is that you want to consider to engage. So again, fully customizable to what you want there. And then the last one is, as I mentioned, if we do have events that we're tracking on your site, which again, the main example is clicking a button. So if it is clicking a request a demo button or a sign up for newsletter button, or it can also be embedded videos. So if you've got embedded videos on your site and you want, again, 200 plays a month or whatever it might be, that's exactly the type of thing that you would be able to set up in here as a key metric using the event tracking option. So that is the very basics of key metrics, and a quick look at the 7 different key metrics triggers that we have available. So hopefully, again, you've got some ideas on the type of things that you'll already be wanting to set up. And then, of course, from there, we would look into our KPIs. So again, the key metrics are the lower level ones, the stuff that's driving the key metrics, driving the KPIs, and then your KPIs are tracked over here. So you're always going to have less KPIs than key metrics because, again, you're going to have several key metrics rolling into KPIs. And so here's some just general ones that they've got set up here. So again, general site engagement. We just talked about how you can set up triggers for engagement, whether it's overall engagement or you wanted to track only social media engagement, which was one of the key metrics that they have set up here. Or admission interest. Again, we saw several different metrics there. So if I'm just talking about general engagement and things like that, you can then roll these up to them. And so then you can see, okay, how are we doing with these metrics over here? And we can see, yep, they're the ones that we already saw when we were looking at it. They're looking at application clicks and campus visit interest and request information page views. So that's how they're determining whether or not they're going to meet their overall KPI goal of admission interest, which in this example they have by 1,000%, which is quite good, of course. But then it also, again, just lets you track what we're looking at here. How did each one perform? So they had one, their campus visit interest, blew it out of the water for the target that they had. And the admission clicks also went well, but their request information page views performed poorly. So again, it just lets you know exactly what's happening there so that you can set that up and look at that as well. To create these KPIs, we'll just quickly walk through that with you as well. Very straightforward. Again, you give it a name. I'll just throw out a test for now. You can add some additional information in these, which is nice. You can talk about who's responsible for these. These are all optional, but they're there for you to use when needed or when wanted. And so here again, who's responsible for it? What actions are going to be taken if the targets are not met? If we didn't meet this, what are we going to do? Are we going to invest in something else? Are we going to change the structure of the site? Obviously, it very much depends on what KPI we're talking about there, but a lot of different things you can add in there. You can even note in there a business owner, or just add a short note describing what that KPI is, why you're using it, and again, anything else you wanted to add there. And so then below that with the KPI, obviously the next big thing is making sure you're applying the correct key metrics to that KPI. So we can see here's just a full list of all of our KPIs that we've got, and you would be able to then select each of the key metrics that you have set up that are applicable to this KPI. And then from there, you can take a look, and KPIs have their own targets. So each key metrics has their target, and then your KPI has its own target. And then you can choose, do you want this to be an accumulated target? So this is just based on the average progress of all the key metrics attached to it. So if they're all doing well, that's great. Or you can also make it a more specific fixed target. So if you're just looking for 1,000 visits or whatever it might be, and regardless of how you're getting there between your key metrics, you can set it as fixed as well. Or you actually don't have to attach a target if you don't want to, but you got those different options for you there. And then lastly, you actually can also set up weighted metrics. So if I just go ahead and select a couple here just to give us something to look at, you can then see I can weight these. So if I'm looking at admissions again, and I think what I care about the most is these application clicks, I can give this a weighted terminology. Maybe I'm even going to increase it all the way to 4, and then campus visit interest, that's great as well. I'm going to give that a 2. And then request information page views, yeah, that's good to track, but it's not quite as important as the other one, so I'm going to leave that as a 1. So again, a lot of different things you can do here to make sure that you're meeting those. You've got your key metrics goals, and then you've got your own KPI goals, which again can be weighted for you if you've got key metrics that are more important than others to make sure you're meeting those. Okay, so that takes us through the creation for both key metrics and KPIs. And so hopefully you've got a much better idea of how you can set these up and some ideas, again, looking at our examples that we looked at of what sort of key metrics you might want to look at. Again, the main idea being, what is it that you want people to do on your website? What is it that you're hoping to accomplish with your website? What is the entire purpose of your website there? But before I let you go, I am going to go ahead and just jump into reporting. Because that's another thing that is very nice about having these KPIs and key metrics is maybe you're looking at your data all the time, not a problem. You log in, you get weekly emails with all the most important data for you, but you probably need to report up to somebody else on these sort of KPIs and key metrics. And so having them nice and easily available makes it very easy for you also to just set up a report with just that information if that's all you care about. And so, for example, if we did want to set up just that high-level report, just looking at your KPIs, or maybe your KPIs and key metrics, whichever one you wanted, we can come in here and we can create a customized report that's going to include just that information. So we can come in here and we can say test KPI and key metrics report, and save that. And then we can just look through our list of components. So this is how we create reports in analytics for anybody who hasn't done this before. And now we can just roll through here and look for the components that we care about, again, in this case, being key metrics and KPIs. So now I'm looking at these, and that's great. I've got that there. I'm going to now add my component in there, and now I'm going to be able to look at a preview of this report. So here's all I've got here. Oops, I accidentally included all pages, but we can look and see what that looks like right now. In a test. So here we go. I've got my top 10 of all pages that I'm looking at because I accidentally selected that. And then I've got my key metrics table and also my key performance indicators table. But obviously I'm going to edit that further because I didn't mean to have my all pages in there. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that from the report. Go ahead and remove that. And then I can also edit these further. So if I, for example, wanted to clean this up, and I don't need a reference telling me it's a table, because I can see it's a table. I can do that there and clean that up. And I can also add header text to this so that if you are sending this to somebody else and you want to make sure they remember why you're giving this to them, especially with the first report, you can come in here and say, hey, Dave, this is the report we talked about from Site Improve. Easy as that. And then you can save that, and then again, everything's set up for you, and then you would be able to schedule out this report that you just created to the appropriate people. So again, if it's the higher level people that wanted just a monthly report on your KPIs and your key metrics for the previous month, that's exactly what we would be able to do here. You could schedule that out on a monthly basis to them, or if you wanted it even more frequently than that, or somebody else did, again, all of our other standard reporting options work for this. It just makes it nice and easy to see a nice clean report that's automatically sent out to the people that need it, so you don't have to pull information every month and try to put this together. Makes it nice and easy and very straightforward for them. Okay, well, that was everything that I wanted to make sure to go with you, to go through with you here today. So again, hopefully you've got a much better idea of what we're looking at with key metrics and KPIs. And if you do already have access to our analytics tool, hopefully you can start creating those right away. If you don't currently have access, obviously feel free to reach out to me if you have any further questions on it, or if you wanted to discuss looking at a more in-depth with just the two of us, or if you're even interested in maybe potentially adding it to your subscription. I will stick around for another few minutes here in case we have any questions. So please send those questions through the chat. Again, I'm going to keep you all muted for now just to keep the audio clean, but please do send through any questions you have here about the key metrics that we just talked about. Of course, you can feel free to send me questions directly as we go through it. And the last thing I'll mention as well is that I also mentioned that there's stuff out in the Help Center, and of course that's where you get through to the Help Center there, so take a look at that. But any questions for me about anything that we talked about here today, or anything regarding key metrics and KPIs? Okay, we got our first question coming through here from Elaine. Thanks, Elaine. Elaine is asking, what is the difference between the key metrics and Google Analytics goals and events? So the overall purpose of them is very similar. The whole idea is tracking your progress as you're working through this type of stuff. A couple of key differences between this is that Google does only have the one level of goals. It's just goals, whereas we have, of course, both the metrics and then the roll-up KPIs. So it makes it a little bit better to have those two different levels, since that is typically how you're going to be looking at it for your site. So it just allows you to track those two different levels a little bit better. And then we also give you more options. So you can actually add in our tool up to 100 key metrics, and I believe the maximum in Google is 20. So you can add 5 times the amount of metrics in here. And then again, the main difference is also that the fact that we've got the two different levels, the key metrics and the KPIs, so you can do that roll-up reporting. Great question. Anybody else have any questions for me? All right, well, I'm not seeing anything else come through, so I think I'm going to call it a session here. But of course, by all means, if something does come up, you can feel free to submit a request through the Help Center, or of course, reach out to me directly if you do have any questions about what we've talked about here. Please don't hesitate to reach out, and thank you all so much for your time here today.